Hi everyone, it's Red, and I'm back to talk about camming versus stripping. I have been an entertainer for 7 years, and I can definitely say I have a lot more experience in that department. Now, when it comes to camming, I have experience on OnlyFans and on different camming sites that you can use to text, video call, audio call, and basically send pictures for money. I'm going to talk today about the pros and cons of both of them and where I'm at today. Hopefully this helps you figure out which one is right for you or at what capacity you want to participate in either of them. Both of these lines of work can be incredibly lucrative. So I just want to say that first, and I think that's a misconception that I had going into camming, was that I thought it was going to be less lucrative than stripping. I think in some ways it is less lucrative where it does require a little bit more of your time, and I will get into that. But you can make a lot of money stripping and camming. You can definitely make $1,000 in one day doing both of these professions. So I think that that's really rare, especially for women in their 20s, women in their 30s. It's so rare to find a job where you can make this type of income without a college degree, without an education, and you can basically make this within your first week of doing these things. Not everyone is going to make that kind of money right away. It depends on a lot of different factors with both stripping and camming, but they are both very lucrative lines of work. So basically, it just really depends on the pros and cons of both of them and what would work better for you personally. Choosing the right path depends on your personality, your goals, and what kind of lifestyle you want to live. This video will give you clarity whether you're wanting to work from home or step your ass up in the club and audition. I hope that this helps you kind of navigate the beginning of your journey in either of these professions. First, I want to start off with stripping because this is what I have the most experience in. So the first pro of stripping is the quick and immediate cash that you can have within hours of showing up at the club. You get paid the same night and you don't have to wait for deposits or anything like that. There are some clubs where if you take credit card payments, you might have to wait a day or a week to receive your money. However, this is very, very rare, and in most cases, when you work at the strip club, you will go home with cold hard cash that night, as long as it's not completely empty and slow. The second pro that I really enjoy about stripping is that there's an in-person connection going on. So as somebody that really likes people and likes being social, I enjoy the social aspect of working at the strip club, working with my girlfriends, seeing my fellow stripper friends and being inspired by them. I think strippers are such amazing, inspiring people, and we all live such interesting lives with such interesting backgrounds. So I really enjoy working at the strip club alongside other bad bitches and getting to be social in my nature of my work. Now, obviously, there's also a downside to this, and we'll get into that because it can be also very emotionally tolling to constantly be around people. So I can only really tolerate maybe 4 nights, 5 at the club, maybe not 5, but like 4. So there's definitely a limit on the amount of social interaction I can give away every week, but I would say that I would call this a pro, that I get to see people and be surrounded by amazing women and also just be social in the nature of my work. Now, another aspect of this real person connection is that I love to perform on stage. So it's very exhilarating for me to have the opportunity to dance on stage and to be in front of an audience. So that's another really big pro for me. The physical performance aspect is amazing. There's not many other professions where you can get so much experience being on stage, performing, being an entertainer, and there's so many different outlets to be creative with your dancing. You have different outfits and have different makeup looks, and you can even show up as a different person every night and have different backstories, and it's just really fun if you want to be an actress one day, or it's just such an amazing experience for anything in entertainment. I think that having experience in the strip club industry is so useful, and there's so much to learn from being kind of in that environment working every day. Now, I'm going to get into the cons of stripping because there's definitely some cons to the club lifestyle. The first one I want to talk about is the physical exhaustion. I don't know about you all, I perform best and make the most money when I do not work days back to back. It's so nice for me to be able to work one day, be off the next, work the next, be off the next. And that's what allows me to show up as my best. Because at the end of the day, if you end up working 3, 4, 5, 6 shifts in a row, you are really going to feel the physical exhaustion. Your knees are going to hurt, your muscles are going to hurt, you're sore from walking around all night, from socializing. It can be both physically and very mentally exhausting. Imagine being in those heels for 6, 7, 8 hours in a row, and not just being in the heels, but standing and dancing, right? Some shifts, maybe you're going to be sitting more, maybe some shifts you're going to be standing more. So doing that back to back for shifts in a row can be super exhausting. And if you can't work days in a row, it can be hard to reach those bigger financial goals and maximize more out of your earnings. The second con I would say is club politics. So that's kind of the other side of the coin when it comes to having an in-person social job. Some clubs have drama, high house fees, or very strict rules that you have to navigate, or things related to your appearance, and sometimes that can have a negative effect on your mental health or just your experience at work. The third biggest con I would say is just dealing with very regular day-to-day rejection. And not just any rejection, but face-to-face rejection. You're putting yourself out there directly and putting yourself out there in a very vulnerable way. And that can be such an intense experience for some people, especially depending on who you are as a person. And I think that face-to-face rejection can really hurt at first, and it can take a while to learn how to not take any of that personally. Strippers need to have really thick skin because we deal with a lot of bullshit in the club, and not just bullshit, there's harassment, sexual harassment, verbal harassment, and on top of that, you could deal with things like racism, fat shaming, like skinny shaming, everything under the moon they will shame women for. So just know that you will experience a lot of these very horrible things, and they will be magnified because it's an environment where people are drunk and vulnerable and maybe acting out of character. So just know that if you're somebody who is very sensitive, you might have a hard time dealing with these types of interactions with people on a daily basis. And it might be helpful to develop a thick skin and a very solid knowledge of who you are and your worth before you step foot in the strip club. Now let's move on to the topic of camming. And this is something that I have less experience in, but I would say I have a good amount of experience in doing OnlyFans. And recently I've done some camming work, which has been super awesome, and I've really enjoyed it. So I'm excited to talk about this now. So when it comes to being a cam girl, I had no idea people still had phone sex and video sex, but you know what? Yes, it still happens, and people are still participating in those ways of consuming porn, independent porn. So that's amazing. And the pros of being a cam girl, I would say the first one is you can work from anywhere. And I think that's really amazing. You can work from anywhere as a stripper, but it might not always be the best situation anywhere. I would say location depends a lot as a stripper. But as a cam girl, you can work from anywhere because the consumers of that type of content come from all over the world. So whether you're in the United States or you're anywhere else in the world, you can participate in camming. So that is something that's super awesome if you're somebody that likes to travel, if you're somebody that is a nomad or whatever it is. Camming is a super accessible option for you in some ways. No commute, no drama, and all you really need is a webcam, Wi-Fi, and your phone. The second really amazing pro is that there is flexible hours. So when it comes to the club, sometimes I get frustrated because, they only have certain times that you can audition, so you can't always just go the same day. And you can only work at night at some places. Some places are open 24 hours, but some places are only open at night. Now, when it comes to camming, it is 24 hours, 7 days a week. And you don't need to go anywhere to do it. So it's flexible hours. You can work whenever you want to. You can use it as a side hustle. You can do it in the morning if you're a morning person. You can do it at night if you're a night person. So that's really, really amazing. And I love the flexibility of camming and being able to do it on my own hours and make my own schedule. The last pro that I want to talk about is basically the ability to be more anonymous and more safe. So I would say that this is a big pro. As a stripper, you are in person, face to face with a lot of different people. And if you're in somewhere that's like your hometown or somewhere where you work a different job in the same city, that can be an issue because you might not want people to know that you're working as a stripper. It can be dangerous for you. There's a lot of different reasons. So I would say with online work, it's a little bit more easy to be anonymous. I have very big tattoos, so that's one thing. If somebody identifies my tattoos, it's pretty much over, but there's a lot of ways to maybe not show your face, to wear a wig, to be under an alias, and to make sure that all of your personal information is completely private and hidden and unassociated with your sex work identity online. And by doing this, you are able to just be safe in your own home and not actually have to be around anybody and perform your sex work services. Now that's amazing. That is truly fucking incredible that you can make a living from the safety of your own home as a gorgeous, gorgeous girl. There is not a lot of ways to do sex work from the safety of your own home, and to work from home in general as a gorgeous, gorgeous girl is such an amazing opportunity and so rare to find. So I would say that that is probably my favorite pro about being a cam girl, is just, it makes you feel so appreciated for being the gorgeous, gorgeous girl or boy that you are, or a non-binary, and it just makes you feel like, damn, I don't even have to leave my house and I'm just such a baddie. And you know, there's a confidence boost with being a stripper as well, but being a cam girl, I was really like, wow, like I really made $600 just sitting here on the couch. Like normally I would have to go and do some lap dances for. There is like this feeling as a cam girl of like, wow, like I'm really just getting paid to be at home, or to just go live my life, to go to the pool or to go to the beach and shoot my little content. So yeah, you kind of get to live that like influencer lifestyle without really being a famous influencer. I would say the cons of being a cam girl are pretty unique to camming. And I would say that the first one is that there's a slower income growth period, especially when you first get started. So at the strip club, your first night and your first week, a lot of people experience like new girl money. So like you can pretty much make a lot of money right from the start. There is a learning curve, of course, and I would say not everybody experiences new girl money, and that's okay. Some people experience exponential growth in their earnings over time. But I would say that with camming, you definitely are not going to make a ton of money right off the bat. And you might, on some camming sites, make a lot of money. They push you as a new face, and you might make a lot of money at first. But you do have to be a little bit more dedicated to building a loyal fan base with the virtual work. I do feel like building a regular fan base with stripping as well is helpful, but I would say that with online work, it can take a little bit longer to build that loyal fan base that you need to really make this a career and not just a quick money strategy. So I would say that is definitely a con with online work, especially with things like OnlyFans or subscription sites where you're building a community of subscribers, and you're trying to increase that monthly earning every month. I would say that with that one, it can definitely take time to get to a point where it's making a significant amount of money, but it is possible, and you can make even more than stripping once you do get there. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, the second thing I would say is kind of piggybacking off of, it's a little bit harder to get started camming, is that you do need technology and a setup. So you do need, either your phone or a laptop, and you might even need camera equipment down the line, lighting, just to make sure that your content is really good so that you can be successful. So it does require, I would say, a little bit more investment than dancing, because with dancing, you buy the pleaser heels, and then you buy your outfit, and then you can pretty much go and audition, maybe some makeup, and do your hair. Now with camming, you might need to buy technology. You might need to learn how to use technology. So it is a little bit more of tech and setup, which can be daunting to some people. So that is something to keep in mind. And I would say a big con is the accessibility aspect. It's like, yes, you can do it from anywhere, but you do need things to get started. I would say I've spent a lot of money on different types of camera equipment and lighting equipment and I'm pretty technologically advanced, so I would say that once I started camming, it was pretty easy for me to pick it up because I could just get started right away. Now, another thing I will say is that I already had a ton of adult content when I got onto this camming site recently, and I was able to use that adult content and just reuse it with a bunch of people. So I haven't even taken any new content. I have a few pieces of new content I've taken in the things I was already doing, like going to work, or like I was taking content for one customer, a custom for one customer, and I sent it to more. But basically I've been working off of an existing archive of content that I've built over the years of doing OnlyFans and just being a stripper. So it really helped me to have that archive of content. If you're starting with no content, I would say that it can be a lot of work to build that archive so that you can just get to the point where you're just sending pictures and you don't have to make new content for every single customer. Once you get to that point, camming is easy. But if you do not have an archive of photos, or you don't have an archive of nudes and sexy photos, it can be hard to get started. So I would say invest your time into building that archive first before you dive into camming, because you might get frustrated with how much work it feels like at first. And also you can get in the habit of doing regular batch content days where you just spend an entire day making content and you can just post all of that for the rest of the week. So there are strategies, but I would say that that is definitely the biggest con, is that it's not as accessible as it may seem. So yeah, I would say that this last con is probably the reason why I am not a full-time cam girl. And when I did a couple days of just camming, I was like, wow, maybe I'm just gonna cam from now on and never go back to the club. But I did realize that at the end of the day, camming did make me feel pretty lonely. So I was working back-to-back days camming, and it was long hours of just constantly, texting, doing calls, video calls, and it was a little lonely. I would say I missed the in-person social aspect of being around my girls, and that was just something that kept me from just doing it full time. And I would say I really liked being able to get out and see people, and when you're camming it can be very isolating and you won't really see other people, and you'll work long hours just at home, which can be a pro to some people and a con to others. It's a completely solo experience unless you're making content with other people, which in that case maybe you are seeing other people more, but I wasn't, and for me it was a totally solo experience, and you don't really have the camaraderie of having other dancers and women around you who are also doing the job. So maybe you use social media to, counter that and be in touch with other cam girls and have more of a community, which is amazing. So you can be a part of a community like Red Light Therapy, which is a community of sex workers online. But if you, need that in-person aspect and you don't have a strong friend group already, it can be kind of isolating to be a cam girl. So I would say that was the biggest con for me. So I've dipped my toes into both worlds, and let me tell you, each of them has their very own unique energy. When I was just stripping, I loved the adrenaline of the quick cash and being on stage. But camming gave me the ability to have freedom, flexibility, and still earn money, really good money, when I didn't want to see people face to face. What actually worked for me the best was to take both and make it the best of both worlds. I learned how to market myself like a cam girl and have that income as passive as possible, or as easy as possible, or on the days where I wasn't up to go to the strip club, or maybe I was burnt out from the strip club and needed a day off, or maybe I got injured. But I bring that in-person magic that I've learned from being in the strip club to both of the worlds that I think is unique to working in the strip club. So now basically I try to combine both and enjoy the best of both worlds. So is stripping or camming right for you? If you love performing and you thrive with in-person interaction, maybe stripping is for you, especially if you're somebody that would enjoy being on stage. If you prefer privacy, flexibility, and being in control of your own environment, camming could be the move for you. But either way, both of these professions can be empowering and lucrative, and it just depends on what you make of it. Let me know in the comments which one you're leaning towards or which one you have done before. Or maybe you're doing both and share your experience with camming versus stripping and what you would recommend to new folks in the industry. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone else who might be considering one of these lines of work. Once again, thank you so much for supporting me. My name is Red. I run an online community for sex workers, dancers, and allies, and my goal is to spread more education in this community and create more connection and resources so that it's not so isolating for people entering this industry. I hope everyone has had an amazing holiday and an amazing day, and I will see you in the next video.